everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Georgia from Georgia's Shenanigans. Today we're going to make a kind of a blingy keychain or keyring, whatever you prefer to call it. We're going to be using some pink hematite beads. They're quite different, and some of these vintage decorative beads. There is a name for them. I can't think of what the name is right now, but that's going to be like the focal part. We've got a lobster clasp. It just opens like that. It's all going to be attached to that. Piece of wire, a couple of head pins, some stainless steel balls, a guardian, and a crimp. So we're going to start off for these big beads. We're going to wire wrap them. So we pop them onto a head pin, just like that. Grab our pliers right at the top of the bead, bend it over, get your round nose pliers, put it in sort of where you want your, like for the size of the loop that you want. Grab your needle nose pliers, or just another pair of pliers, it doesn't have to be needle nose, and wrap. So you want to fill that space that we've got between the loop and the bead. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a key ring, but you know, get it as neat as you can. Unless you want to do a messy wrap, you can do that. I'm not really a fan of the messy wrap, so I don't generally do them messy. Grab your loop again, straighten up a bit. Now you'll see where you've cut your wire, there's a tiny little tail where you've cut it. So you want to tuck that tail in, because obviously you don't want to have something like that sticking out, because it's going to scratch someone or catch someone's clothes or something awful. So just tuck it in as best you can, and just make sure that you can't feel anything. Oh, that feels fine. So we're going to do the same to the other one. Bend your wire back, grab your round nose, spin your wire around. So you've got that sort of look. Grab another pair of pliers and wrap. It's a good idea to try and keep your wrap straight, because if it sort of wraps on an angle, then it doesn't look as good, and it's a bit tricky to kind of try and fix it. So cut your end off. Tuck that little end in. Okay, so that's our two beads wrapped. Now what we're going to do, we're going to do something a little bit different to the norm. We put our wire guardian on our wire, and we're going to make it about the middle of the wire. So you'll put it in the middle if you want your two strands to be the same length. You know, if you wanted one strand to be a bit longer than the other, then you would not put it in the middle, obviously. Now we're going to put our lobster claw on there, squeeze it in. So it looks like that. Now we're going to get our crimp. Now you don't actually have to crimp this at this point. You could just put a bead on there to hold it all in place. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this thick wire through. This is about a 0.6 millimetre, this wire. And it may not, two pieces may not go through these crimps. Yeah, it kind of does. And you kind of need to be a little bit careful when you're doing things like this, because you don't want to ruin your wire. As it is, this is probably going to damage it a little bit. Okay, so we've got our crimp on there. So now we want to grab a decent set of pliers, which I always use my crimping pliers. Crimping pliers are great. They're great for just about everything. They're nice and strong. They've got a reasonably fine point. Good for much more than just crimping. Okay, so once you've crimped, this is what you end up with. You've got your wire attached to your clasp. So now we're going to feed on some beads. We're going to do a double strand. So we're going to feed on some beads. So I think we'll do 3 or 4 of each size, just with a little daisy spacer in between. Okay, so we've got our first string of beads on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put a crimp on the wire. We're not going to use a wire guardian. I don't think a wire guardian is really necessary at this point. It is thick wire. The keychain itself isn't heavy, so I'm thinking that we're not going to need a wire guardian. So I'm going to just grab a regular crimp, pop those ones back in. So that's a little disappointing, but anyway, it is what it is. So now we want to just go through a couple of beads. And this is the challenges with working with thicker wire. It's not so bad if you're using ceramic beads or something like that, but quite often beads have got a smaller hole, and when you're using the thick wire, it can be challenging. Now we do want to give our bead at the bottom a little bit of room, not too much room. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now we grab our crimping pliers. Give it a good hard squeeze. Fold it over on itself like that. Snip your wire off. Get down as close as you can to that bead. I missed it all together. Okay, so there's one side. We're going to have to use a crimp cover on that, but that's okay. So now we'll do the other side. So that's 3, 4, and the larger ones. Okay, pop a crimp on. Grab your bead. Feed your wire back through your crimp. Back through at least one bead. Okay, so now we want to put a couple of crimp covers on. So the way I deal with these is I just grab them in my pliers, grab what I'm going to cover, pop the crimp in there, squeeze it closed. The one's actually not on there very well. These covers I think are a little small. just round them off as best you can. And there it is, one blingy little keychain, pretty easy to make. I just thought I would share that with you guys. I kind of had an idea in my head of how I wanted to do it, and I was just kind of making it up as I went along, really. But anyway, it is what it is. So this will be for sale in my Etsy store and my eBay, in my eBay listings. So if you're interested, you can head on over there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you can all like and subscribe, and a comment would be wonderful. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great week. Bye-bye.